Welcome back to Spiritual Context for Worldly Chaos. This is part 4 of Gemma Gallucci's 2023 interview. Enjoy. How we would train as a Romani tarot reader, because I've always wanted to know what the process is of learning tarot in that way. And I think it's an elusive thing. And I think a lot of us make it a lot more Hollywood in our head than it probably is.
Oh, yeah.
So do you mind if I walk through some of the symbolisms of the cards and ask you like what either your perspective is, Sandra's perspective, whatever you want to, convey? Because I'm very curious.
Ultimately, like, she would try to teach me that there's specific meanings to certain cards, and I just didn't take to it. I get there in a roundabout way anyway, where I'll come back to the same meaning, but it's usually through intuition, because I'll read a card 2 different ways based on who I'm reading it for and what the rest of the spread looks like, but ultimately I still kind of have the same meaning. But when it comes to like exactly what Sandra would say it is, I don't know if I remember. I can try though.
Okay, so out of curiosity then, the one that everyone, well, not just the one, but like one of the ones that people freak out about.
Death.
What would be death?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like what you actually gonna die? Or like what would be the Romani perspective of death?
So the perspective on that, I think, is a pretty general one, because you're just trying to keep someone from freaking out, of course. So I'll just say, don't be afraid. It can be good. Death is rebirth. Death is regeneration. Death is letting in the new. Death is discarding the old for the new. And sometimes there's not even an old to discard, there's just a new to inhabit, basically, because death is just one step away from birth. And that's what she taught me, and that's what I still hold on to.
I love that. I mean, I think that that's a general idea of it throughout time. I think that's a modern perspective as well. I've noticed that when death comes out, there is a permanent change that's going to happen.
Yes.
And that's probably what has been the hardest thing for me when it came out for myself, or when I'd pull for myself, when I'd see death. And there was a period of my life pretty recently where death kept coming up. And it was a painful change. But like you said, there was a rebirth that happened after a period of time. But it was like, it did feel like something was dying inside, and something that I had as my ego, something that I felt was mine or was true or real, and all of a sudden it wasn't.
Exactly.
And then I had to cope with that.
Yeah, we have to shed old skins, to be able to feel the sunlight again. But that doesn't mean we have to necessarily let go and like just throw it out or compost it. I mean, we could, but also sometimes it's nice to just hang it up in the closet to remember where you were at one point,
Yeah, totally. So you say that you don't remember very well because it was a while ago. Was it a quick
no
teaching, or was it over years of time? It just happened to be when you were really young?
I don't even necessarily remember asking her. Maybe I did. I think one day we were just, because my dad and her, they have a Reiki studio, and my dad's a Reiki master. And in the studio, she has a little corner where she does readings as well. And that's like her office. And we were in her office because we would just hang out there. And I think that she just pulled out the deck and she was like, all right. And we started.
It is time.
Exactly. Yeah. I think maybe I did ask her, but I don't really remember. I think maybe I just mentioned
12,
it to my dad.
like, yeah.
I was like, Mom, I learned tarot.
Yeah. And she was like, well, let's go.
Exactly. She was like, buckle up.
So was it, but did the teachings take months, years? Did she practice with you, or did she just tell you all the meanings and then showed you a couple spreads? How was the process?
I think the first thing that we did was that she showed me what a spread looked like, and she showed me how to do it. Like, she didn't necessarily give me a reading, but she like did everything but that. I think because I was so young, she was like, you don't need a reading right now. That'd be dumb.
12-year-olds don't.
Was true.
Yeah.
What was I gonna?
You're gonna go outside and play in a second.
Exactly. Like, you're gonna have a really hard time on that math test. It's like, well, we all knew that was gonna happen. But yeah, no, I think that she like basically showed me how a reading went, and then she did this very vulnerable thing that she says that she never really does, and I've never heard of her doing it since, and I haven't done it for her since. But she let me give her a reading, and I struggled through it so intensely. Especially because she is a matriarch in a very serious sense. And so she had a lot of stuff in there that, she didn't necessarily, not that she didn't want me to know about, but like nobody ever wants their kids to see how much work they're doing, in general or for them. But I did the reading reluctantly because that was an immediate hard reading to give, not only because I just didn't necessarily know what I was doing, but because I immediately had to pull out the big guns and say the things that people didn't want to say, you know?
And how are you going to know? How are you going to know how to translate that as a 12-year-old to an adult anyways?
Exactly.
It's like, how would you, like, I don't know, the hangman, you're waiting on a package. Like, I don't know, like, what is that?
Yeah, I don't even remember what the cards were at all. I think at one point, I think one of them was the Emperor, but I don't remember where it was or anything. Um, but after that, like, she helped me through it because I think that she trusted me to know what was happening, you know, in her life, you know, in a more like adult extent. And then after that, we would just kind of play with the cards basically and talk about the meanings that I got when giving her a reading. And then at one point, I had this very close friend when I was younger, and she would come too sometimes, and I would give her Reiki, even though she didn't necessarily believe in it. And she'd be like, I want a reading, give me a reading. But she always wanted it to be about love because we were like children. And that was the first reading I'd ever really gave, and Sandra would help me through it because, you know, Vicky didn't care that Sandra was there. It was like, this is a dumb little reading that I don't really know what's going on.
Does the boy in my class like me?
Exactly. And the answer was, get away from him now.
Him teasing you is not him liking you. And even if it was, we do not need to affirm that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was, and I don't remember actually ever really having a lesson after that. I think after that, she was kind of just like, she also gets very, very busy. Like sometimes I won't talk to her for like weeks at a time just because she's too busy. Like we'll have like the group chat, like good night, love you, good morning, love you, like send a picture of the dog or something like that. But other than that, like I won't have like an actual true like long conversation with her for like a very long time because she's got so many clients. She's got clients all over the world. And so because of that, sometimes it takes a front seat, especially because she's a matriarch and, you know, needs to like, she's the breadwinner and all that kind of stuff. But I think after that, she got too busy and I didn't actually have a lesson with her ever again after that. But So
that was your one big lesson, was at 12? Like that was like the one moment that she was like, sit down, I'm going to show you.
Yeah, she was like, sit down. And then I gave her I think that was all in one lesson that I gave her I think she just knew that I could do it, basically. And I did, and it was really scary. I think part of it too is that like I was kind of afraid of her lessons. You know, she was so like matter of fact, yes, no.
Yeah, right?
Capricorn, like, I have 2 Capricorn mothers. It's horrifying.
That makes sense with your Capricorn rising, though.
Yeah, no,
that makes sense because it's like we have to relate. Please relate to me.
I have 2 Capricorn moms and 2 Sagittarius dads. They have the same birthday, actually. Yeah.
Stop it.
They have the same birthday. My mom and my stepmom, their birthdays are 3 days off. And like different years, but they're 3 days off. And then my stepdad and my dad, same day, different year.
Wow. So then, okay, so if you're talking about the suits, like I know this is only one day, so let's forget about the one day, but from what you've learned through your time of tarot readings, so let's talk about the suits. If we're talking about Pentacles, that's something that I would imagine, Romanis or anybody who's like a very, like a gypsy tarot reader is like, this is money. This is all money. Is that like how you see it? Or is it this is...
I see it more as I connect it with, Earth, because the sign that it connects with is Earth. So I think of pleasure, comfort, stability, things like that, It doesn't, and usually in our capitalistic society, that usually tends to come with money, but sometimes it'll show up in like a love reading when like you're feeling unstable within your relationship, or like you're pleasure seeking, but you're not actually like opening yourself up to, the different aspects of it where it would be a lot more work, that kind of stuff,
Right. And I look at Pentacles when you talk about Earth, it's more like time, it really brings out the aspect of your life where it's just going to take you more time, where the wands are quick action.
The hard work,
Exactly. And when you talk, with water and earth, those are both receptive signs. So that is something flowing towards you. So you have to use the things that are flowing towards you, or you have to connect with the things that are flowing towards you.
Otherwise they'll just flow past you.
And then the fires and the swords. Yeah. Exactly. And then the wands and the swords, the fire and air, are things that you're actively doing. So that's where you may feel a little bit more active in your life. And it's very interesting that one of the 2 actions is all conflict. It's all like, anxieties, right? Swords. It's like, okay, so I can either take action and like do something, or I can just like take action and be anxious.
Yeah.
Like that's like, because that is kind of, your mental health is not obviously all up to you, but a lot of it can be, you know, a lot of it can be just allowing yourself to learn from mistakes or just dealing with really anxious times, right? Is that kind of how you also see the suits as well, as more like what a person is experiencing as opposed to say the court cards and the majors, which are other people in like larger life lessons or larger life spiritual?
So I'd say the interesting thing with the swords, in my opinion, is that they usually end up coming up when it comes to inaction. Like when someone's stuck in a certain way.
Yeah.
So like it's about the action that they know that they should be taking, but they aren't. And that's what causes the anxiety, is that they have this idea of what they should be doing, what they want to be doing, or where they should be, but they're not making any moves to get there because they're too afraid. That's usually where the swords come up. And then when it comes to the wands, it's usually people are taking action and not necessarily thinking too hard about what it is that they're doing, you know? It tends to, yeah, the for the wands, it tends to be that like some kind of conflict, as you said, but not always in the direction that is most helpful to them, I think. Well, because that's the thing, is that there needs to be a healthy balance for someone to feel balanced. Because if you got all wands, then you're all just like fire, fire, fight, fight. If you've got all air, then you're just thinking too hard about what you need to be doing, and then like you're not actually doing it because you're just stuck in your head. And then if you have too much, you know, pentacles or earth, and then you're just too afraid to move because of you're so comfortable where you are, but you don't know where you could be comfortable next because you're just thinking about where you are right now. You're just seeing where you are. And when it comes to water, it's too much conflict avoidance, basically, in terms of it's a lot of snap judgments. And because, you know, a lot of emotions can be snap judgments because we can be very reactive instead of, you know, responsive. And so there's a lot of this assumption that like we need to leave something behind, or we have left something behind that maybe we shouldn't have, or maybe it was a good thing, but we don't know where to go from here. You know, everything gets mucked up.
I love that perspective because it's going back to what you said, that everybody's kind of blocked, you know, everybody has, you know, if they're coming to you, it's because there's something that's keeping them from what they want. And so every way that you talked about the suits, it's been like, this is the thing that's holding you back, or this is the thing that's kind of like keeping you in a place that you don't necessarily want to be. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd say so. And there's obviously, you know, there's some exceptions to the rule. And I don't think that it's something that I necessarily think of going into it. It's not like necessarily like that I'll see a wand card and I'll think like, oh, like you're just fighting with everyone. You're fucking everything up. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse, but I just did. But
no, it's totally cool.
Okay. But it tends to be what comes out. It's more of a just a, yeah. I didn't necessarily make that rule up. It kind of just is what I've seen over time.
I love that too, because it makes it more actionable for the tarot reader. I think in my previous podcasts, we've talked a lot more about how to make it actionable for the person. Mm-hmm. And this makes it more actionable for, I think, the reader, because it is anticipating the idea that somebody's coming because they're stuck about something. Like some people definitely come just to get like a general idea about their future, mm-hmm. but a lot of people come because there's a problem, exactly. or there's a roadblock, or there's an issue. So it kind of sets your own energy and your own mindset up to help the person rather than just relay information sort of from all over the place, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that, and the way that I conduct my readings too, I have a card that I call the possible near future card. I don't call it their future card, because how my readings usually go is that there's a fork in the road, and you're starting to travel down one of them, but you're not sure if you should make a turn. And this will show you what happens if you continue down this path as opposed to making the turn. And so I show them what happens on either path, and then it's up to them to decide which direction to go in. And there's only been, I think, a handful of times where there hasn't been a path, and there's just been like, this is going to happen, and you're going to need to figure out how to deal with it. And that's for like more concrete things, you know, like life and death type situations, instead of like, does this person love me? You know, it's much more concrete things than trying to figure out what job they should do.
Yeah, you were before we started recording, you mentioned that you're having, you know, you're potentially moving. Mm-hmm. And like that's a really great reason to call a tarot reader, is like I have a couple of different places that I want to move, and I genuinely don't know which way to go just because I don't know what's going to happen there. Can you pull me a card for the potential realities of what I'll meet if I move forward? And I think that's also where you can get to like an advanced place as a tarot reader. This is like after time, because there's sometimes that I'll pull out cards and if I see a minor, it's not as exciting as if I see a major or even a court card. So even if I pull out a sword, let's say it's the 5 of Swords, I'm not necessarily going to say Berlin's going to sabotage you.
Exactly.
I mean, you may have, more anxiety there, or there may be a little bit more. It may not be as exciting as the other places that you want to go, unless I see maybe the devil in one place, then I'll be like, no, that's not the place you want to go. Probably that place you don't need to be going, right? But if I see, let's say, the 2 of Cups in one place, and I'm like, okay, you can make some really great connections here, but the Empress is in another place. Both of those are beautiful cards, but the Empress is the ability to support yourself, provide for yourself. You get connections that are beneficial in like benefactress ways. People will see your talent and they'll want to invest in you, and you're going to feel a sense of nurturing, even if these are really great connections over here. So that's kind of a way maybe to, when you have these, yes, no questions, it's not necessarily like if you're only pulling one card to say, I'm interpreting this one card, maybe look at it like, out of all the other cards, what are the ones that I like? What are the ones I don't like? What are the ones that are kind of boring? And then, kind of make your way out from there. Is that something that you feel?
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think that something that I usually try to relate to people too is that like when they have too many, I don't like to say too many questions, but sometimes there are too many questions. And they need to focus their energy more.
Yeah.
When they have like a billion questions and expect amazing fairy tale answers to all of them, I say, that's the thing, is that like life isn't a fairy tale. Sometimes the answer is not the most exciting, and sometimes there's no exciting option. If we're pulling for like 5 different apartments, maybe there's one that's just like a little bit cooler than the rest, and the rest just like aren't that great. Maybe the cards are all pretty similar, and that's just how it is, and then you have to make your decision based on that. Like maybe there is no Empress card that gets pulled.
Exactly. I mean, I read for myself pretty much every day just because I like to see how things show up in my life. And I can tell you the cards that I expect to see someday, because clearly they've fallen out of my deck when I shuffle for myself. I finally started seeing the Empress recently, but it's been like, what, a year or something? Or like, it's felt like forever. Or like the Ace of Pentacles. Give me the Ace of Pentacles. Like, give me the like, 4 of Pentacles, Give me that money, honey. Yep. Like, so there's definitely cards you want to see. But that's the other thing. It's like, that's, I think, also where tarot reading really helps a person, not just the person hearing it, but a person who's performing it, push past their own barriers, because we're no different than the people that we're reading. We have expectations of life. We have attachments to things. We have people that we want to be with, or people that we can't be with. We have all sorts of stuff. So if you want to be a good tarot reader, a lot of that stuff you've got to learn how to either quell, because you can't, like, whatever you don't want to hear yourself, you're not going to be able to read for somebody else.
Exactly.
If you're afraid your partner's cheating on you and you see that come up in the cards, you're not, it's going to be much scarier for you to communicate to that person that might be happening, because you're so attached to what might be happening in your own relationship.
Or sometimes it's like, you can say whatever you want to somebody else, but when it comes to yourself, you're not willing to hear it. And that's, I think, a big reason as to why I don't read myself very often, is because I never know exactly how objective I can really be with myself,
Exactly. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. If you haven't already, feel free to sign up to my Substack, especially if you like to know what's happening with astrology. I send out a weekly Sunday newsletter called This Week in the Sky, and it projects the upcoming transits, retrogrades, eclipses, and so on. And I also do a little mini tarot reading for everybody. So if you like that kind of thing, subscribe to my Substack. That's free. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow. Take care.